this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Why have I asked my HVAC guy I found on Angie.com to change my grandpa's trachea tube? Because I was so amazed by how quickly he replaced our air ducts. I knew I could trust him to change Pop-Pop's tube while I was on vacation.
Make it quick, young man.
Aw, see? Pop-Pop trusts you.
I think we should call a doctor.
Connecting homeowners with skilled pros for over 30 years. Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.
The big game commercials are basically must-see TV. This year, Elf Cosmetics went all out with an absurdly funny telenovela called Melissa. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Nicholas Gonzalez, Itati Cantoral, and Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil. The Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil is an ultra-glossy tinted lip oil that nourishes, hydrates, and enhances your lips' natural color.
Watch the full episode of their new Elf novela on soyunbaño.com.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
How do you make chicken nuggets like 7,000% better? Short answer, you let Taco Bell make them. Long answer, start with all white meat chicken nuggets, bread them in crunchy tortilla chips, and serve them with Hidden Valley Diablo Ranch. Yep, that's Hidden Valley Ranch mixed with Taco Bell Diablo sauce. It's exactly what it sounds like, and somehow even better. Simple math, spicy results. Crispy chicken nuggets from Taco Bell. A brand new classic. At participating U.S. Taco Bell locations for a limited time only, while supplies last.
We've never really had a situation where we didn't have SNAP as this fundamental building block of the social safety net. And, I certainly know that we will not be able to replace what's lost with private charity. We cannot food bank our way out of this problem. And I'm really worried about what we'll see.
Welcome to One Thing Trump Did, available exclusively on the Middle podcast feed. I'm Jeremy Hobson, and each week on this podcast, and you know this if you're a regular listener, we pick one thing coming out of the Trump White House and break it down in a nonpartisan way with someone who knows what they're talking about. And this week, our one thing is the federal program known as SNAP. That's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Used to be called food stamps. The program is administered by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and provides food assistance benefits to low-income households. Last year, almost 42 million people received SNAP benefits each month. But, as you probably heard, the SNAP program got caught up in the government shutdown, had to stop for many recipients. Some eventually got partial benefits. Now that the government has reopened, SNAP benefits are back, but the White House has been saying that the program has problems and needs to be reformed. Here's the Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins speaking on CNN.
SNAP is a broken program. SNAP is full of corruption. We found 186,000 dead people. We asked for the SNAP data earlier this year. It has never been turned over to the federal government before. We had 29 states turn it over, mostly red states. 21 states said, no, thank you, we're in litigation. From just those 29 states, we have found, again, almost 200,000 dead people. It's remarkable.
Well, for more on SNAP, I am joined by Diane Schanzenbach, who is an economist and chair at the McCourt School of Public Policy at Georgetown University. Diane, it's great to have you here.
Great to be here.
Well, so let's start with the basics. 42 million people on SNAP benefits. Who are they broadly?
So SNAP goes to low-income families. Generally, your income has to be below 130% of the poverty line. And that's the primary thing that makes you eligible or not. And so, who is low income in the United States? Well, about 40% of the people on SNAP are children. About 20% are older Americans ages 60 and above. And then the rest are some mix of adults with low levels of education and very, very low incomes, parents, working parents that qualify for SNAP because they've got relatively low incomes and lots of expenses, things like that. But it's low-income Americans on this program.
Well, and just to give people an idea of what that means, 130% of above the poverty level, the eligibility cutoff is $41,795 for a family of 4
per year. That's right. These are really, low-income Americans. A lot of them are working. A lot of them are retired on fixed incomes, et cetera. But they're really living paycheck to paycheck, or even in some cases hand to mouth.
And if you are that family of 4 on SNAP, do you get just the $187 a month for all 4 people?
No, that's the average amount per person per month.
Per person, okay.
And then the amount that you get, that we talked about, 188 is the average per person per month, but there's a range from the maximum benefit, which is something like $240 maybe per person, down to a minimum benefit for most household sizes of about $20 per person per month, and the SNAP benefits get reduced as your income goes up. And so it's designed to meet the gap between the resources you've got for food and then the amount that the government says it costs to have a healthy diet.
And when you take that EBT card with your SNAP benefits on it, you can use it at the supermarket. Can you use it anywhere else? What can you buy with it? Are there limitations? Can you go into the supermarket and only buy certain things with that?
Yeah, you should think about it as you can purchase most groceries at most grocery outlets. So in order to be able to redeem your SNAP benefits, the retailer has to participate. But as you can imagine, a lot of retailers have a big incentive to want to participate because, in many places, this is a lot of grocery money that could be spent. So you'll see, other sort of stores, convenience stores will often say EBT or SNAP, can be redeemed here. Sometimes convenience stores like the Wawa or 7-Eleven, something like that. But then most of the benefits are redeemed at what we think of as either grocery stores or bigger retail markets, things like Walmart, Target, et cetera.
So when you say most groceries, like what can you use it to buy?
So according to the program rules, it's foods that don't include hot foods intended for immediate consumption. Also, you can't buy vitamins. You can't buy things that aren't food, like you can't buy paper towels, things like that. I encourage you not to eat paper towels. But also alcohol, tobacco, nothing like that. And a lot of people don't know, of course, the way that we've shopped has changed over time. And a lot of families, I've got 3 teenagers myself, rely on things like rotisserie chickens from the grocery store. And so they wonder, why is it that you can't buy a rotisserie chicken when that's such a useful ingredient for dinner? Right. And that, as I understand it, goes back to the 1970s when Kentucky Fried Chicken took the program to court and said, it's unfair competitive advantage to let you use these benefits only at grocery stores. And so my understanding is that's when they drew that line. And of course, then so much of our ability to buy partially prepared foods at the grocery store have changed. But really where they draw the line is hot. So you'll see sometimes at stores, you can buy a cold sandwich, but if you want us to toast it, you can't use your SNAP benefits. And so you get some kind of silly edge cases, but that's basically the idea. It's just this normal stuff in your grocery cart.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that the way that this program is set up, it's not like there's a national food bank to give people food. It is relying on private businesses to make this work.
This is one of the reasons, as an economist, I love this program, is because it uses our very efficient private sector. We're really good at getting food onto shelves at grocery stores, all over the nation. Sure, there are places where there are food deserts and things like that, but by and large, the market works really well here. And then the benefits are in terms of dollars. So you get to decide, how do I want to trade off, given prices and my family's tastes and preferences. And so, this week, Gala apples might be on sale, and so we're going to buy those instead of navel oranges, or, et cetera. So it's people get to make their own choices, they face real prices, and it uses the best of the market.
And it was started around the time of the Great Depression. Has it, over the course of time, faced political hurdles? Have people said, this is too expensive, we've got to get rid of this SNAP program? Or conversely, we need to expand this SNAP program greatly?
It was really launched in its current setting as part of the war on poverty in the early 1960s. And the program has been really very similar ever since then. And up until really the last month, there's been great bipartisan agreement that this is, a highly functioning program. Uses the private sector, it addresses, hunger and food insecurity, and really does it in a very effective manner.
So you've never seen it be taken away the way that it was during the shutdown just now?
Oh, no, it's never been not funded like it was during the shutdown. And so, so we were really experiencing something that's never happened before. And, I think many of us will be unpacking what happened as a result for, weeks and months and probably even years to come.
Well, and what have you heard about that? I mean, just even for a few days, for people not to be able to access these benefits, what was happening?
I'm on the board of our local food bank in Chicago, and we saw week over week a 40% increase in the number of people who had to come to our partner sites to get food. Like I said before, a lot of people on this program live either paycheck to paycheck or even really hand to mouth. And any delay, any interruption is going to come with hunger and real hardship. And, that's what we saw. And I'll say that the Feeding America Network and other food banks, saw this coming. We really worked hard to try to do everything we could to feed our neighbors. But SNAP is such a large scope, and it reaches so many people, right? 1 out of every 8 Americans, that you're never going to be able to food bank your way out of this problem. The reason that private sector charity works is because we've got this strong program underlying it.
So now that it's restarted, what are you hearing, since this has never happened before, what are you hearing about the challenges of states restarting the benefits? I was reading that it's more difficult for the states that actually paid partial benefits, because then they have to figure out how much to give to the people that didn't get their full benefits versus the states that didn't give any benefits at all, and they can just fund the full card now a little bit late.
That's exactly right. I mean, we've never been in a position where we needed to fund partial benefits. And so, I'm sure that they'll work it through, but, they were certainly trying to do the right thing by getting as much money out as possible to try to, help their citizens afford enough to eat. But then this, start and stop and, all the changing rules that were happening day to day during the government shutdown really caused a lot of just both unneeded stress and then unneeded administrative costs. And nobody likes to burn money on administrative costs.
Well, and anybody that's on the other side of that, I just can imagine, somebody trying to log into the website to get their benefits. And if there's a problem, like with all these people trying to do that at the same time, it's not going to be easy if there's an issue.
And you can imagine those parents who, have hungry kids to feed, and they're, logging in and hoping that some benefits will be loaded on so that they can go to the grocery store. And it's really unthinkable that we put so many Americans through such a tough time.
Well, stay with us, because in a moment we're going to talk about some of the Trump administration's criticisms of the program in general, and also the issue of work requirements. One thing Trump did with economist Diane Schanzenbach. We'll be right back.
Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
the stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan, tonight 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Why have I asked my electrician I found on Angie.com to bury my pet hamster Nibbles in our yard for me? Because I was so moved by how carefully he buried my electrical wires, I knew I could trust him to bury my sweet Nibbles after his untimely end. Nibbles, gone too soon. May he scurry in peace.
Hey, sorry about your pet, but I just wire stuff.
Nibbles would have loved you like a brother.
Connecting homeowners with skilled pros for over 30 years. Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.
Ever wonder why so many people regain weight after stopping a GLP-1? Up to 40% of the weight lost can come from lean muscle. This weakens the body, slows metabolism, and makes it easier to put the pounds back on, creating a cycle of dependency. Prolon's 5-day fasting-mimicking diet offers a drug-free way to maintain results and support long-term metabolic health. In just 5 days, it activates fasting pathways to burn fat, protect muscle, and rejuvenate cells, all while letting you enjoy real food. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/iHeart. That's prolonlife.com/iHeart.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to One Thing Trump Did exclusively on the Middle podcast feed. I'm Jeremy Hobson. We are talking about SNAP benefits, and we are doing that with economist Diane Schanzenbach at the McCourt School of Public Policy at Georgetown University. Diane, the so-called Big Beautiful Bill had some changes to the work requirements for SNAP benefits. And in fact, the Biden administration also tightened work requirements. What has changed over the last several years when it comes to what you have to do in order to get these benefits?
All right, so the work requirement in SNAP is tied to the number of hours that you work, and it only applies historically to adults without children in the household that aren't elderly and aren't disabled. So usually it went, for those ages 18 to 49, and some people like veterans and homeless folks and children who just aged out of foster care were exempted from that. Something that's really important to think about when you think about work requirements is it may be reasonable to ask someone to work when the economy is good, but oftentimes the economy gets soft. And because we've got such a large and dynamic economy, the overall unemployment rate might be 5%, but in the area where you live, it could be 10%. And of course, added to that, because so many people on SNAP have lower levels of education, they've got other characteristics that mean their attachment to the labor force is lower. They just generally face higher levels of unemployment than the overall population. All of this together means that in many, many cases, it's just not realistic to ask someone to work 20 hours a week in exchange for benefits. What happened as part of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act was sort of twofold. One is they expanded the share of people on SNAP who are subject to these work requirements, pushed it all the way up to age 64. So even though many of those older Americans, are already retired, they're collecting early Social Security benefits. According to SNAP, they're subject to a work requirement. They eliminated those waivers for veterans and homeless individuals, et cetera, and then also added some parents of older children. So more people are exposed to the work requirements. But the second big thing is that in bad economic times, it's much harder now to waive the work requirements. And such that, I'm quite worried that, when we have another economic downturn or in places where we still haven't seen, a full economic recovery, we're going to be taking away people's food when they really have no reasonable chance of getting a job.
Well, and in fact, I saw that the largest number of Americans on SNAP was right after the financial crisis. I think it went up to like 47 million or something like that. And now I said we're down at 42 million. During COVID, the numbers were expanded as well. And that's one of the things that President Trump has been pointing to. Oh, they expanded the program during COVID. We've got to bring it back down. What about that? What about this criticism from the Trump administration? We just heard Secretary Rollins say there's fraud, there's dead people on the rolls, et cetera.
It's a really well-run program. Certainly there's, there's always, some people that slip through the cracks, but it's a program that takes, fraud and program integrity extremely seriously. And, I just think to a first order, no, they're not dead people on the rolls. It is absolutely true that when the economy gets soft, more people lose their jobs and lose income and then become eligible for SNAP. And something that I think we all get frustrated with is that the economy doesn't recover at the same rate for all people in all places. And so, whereas lots of people lost their jobs at the same time, it varies in how quickly they can regain their jobs. Now, another thing that I want to add is we've seen an increase in SNAP enrollment, SNAP rolls in recent years. And some of that's also being driven by the aging of the baby boomers, because more and more of them, are, getting older and, getting onto Social Security and have low enough incomes that they qualify. And so I said a few minutes ago that about 20% of people on SNAP are older Americans. That used to be more like 10%, and that's increased dramatically recently. And we, of course, know what the baby boomer generation looks like. It's like, the food going through the snake, right? They sort of just are getting older and older.
Now, a lot of what the Trump administration has done, you can go right back in and look at Project 2025 from the Heritage Foundation and see what the plans are. They do talk about SNAP benefits. What are you expecting the administration to try and do when it comes to SNAP?
The other piece in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that I really think will fundamentally change this program is, for the first time ever, they're saying that states need to contribute a substantial portion to the actual benefit levels. That's coming in very quickly over the next couple of years, and it really shifts this large portion of money onto state budgets. For a number of reasons, states aren't prepared to do that. And because this program gets larger during bad economic times, there are some features of state budgets. Most of them have balanced budget requirements, which means that states can't more freely spend during bad economic times like the federal government can. And so as an economist, I'm really worried about how the state share of benefits, if we really do implement that in a couple of years, will then undermine the effectiveness of this program in terms of being, a counter-cyclical stimulus and really catch people when they're hitting bad economic times.
Well, how bad could things get if the benefits really do go away for a lot of people. Could we see in this country in 2025 or 2026 or 2027 the kind of just out in public hunger that you see in places like India and other countries around the world?
Boy, I hope not. But we've never really had a situation where we didn't have SNAP as this fundamental building block of the social safety net. And, I certainly know that we will not be able to replace what's lost with private charity. We cannot food bank our way out of this problem. And I'm really worried about what we'll see.
Let me just finally ask you why, as an economist, you decided to become such an expert in SNAP benefits.
Food is such an interesting thing to study. Everybody's got different preferences, and it's something that you have to buy with high frequency. Anybody who's taken Econ 101 will maybe remember that if we give you an in-kind benefit instead of cash, it might make you shift how you purchase things. So I got hooked on this more than 20 years ago as a graduate student, and just as I've gotten deeper and deeper into it, it just gets more and more interesting.
When you're teaching your students about this, is it difficult, especially if they're at a school like Georgetown where they're paying so much money? I mean, every school is very expensive now, but where they're paying so much money to go, do they understand what it means to live in poverty in this country and need SNAP benefits to survive?
I always have at least one or two students realize, when we had to move when I was a younger kid, that was because Dad lost his job, and that's because of the economy. And you'll see sort of lights go off in their head on this. I think that you're right, though, that many of us don't understand what it's like to live in poverty. One thing that they often challenge folks to do is try to live for a week on a SNAP budget and see how difficult it is. I mean, we're fortunate that we don't have to make the tough choices that so many of these families have to make. And I think, developing some empathy, especially, around the holiday season, is a worthwhile exercise.
That is Diane Schanzenbach, who's an economist and chair at the McCourt School of Public Policy at Georgetown University. Diane, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
And thanks to you for listening to One Thing Trump Did. It was produced by Harrison Patino. Our next middle episode is coming to your podcast feed later this week. We're going to be discussing artificial intelligence again and talking about whether it excites you or you're scared that it's going to destroy us all. That is actually the title of the show. Are you excited or are you scared it's going to destroy us all? If you like this podcast, please rate it and write a review. Our theme music was composed by Noah Haidu. I'm Jeremy Hobson, and I'll talk to you soon.
Owning a home is full of surprises. Some wonderful, some not so much. And when something breaks, it can feel like the whole day unravels. That's why HomeServe exists. For as little as $4.99 a month, you'll always have someone to call. A trusted professional ready to help, bringing peace of mind to 4.5 million homeowners nationwide. For plans starting at just $4.99 a month, go to homeserve.com. That's homeserve.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range between $4.99 to $11.99 a month your first year. Terms apply on covered repairs.
You see it instantly. It's Cold Water Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Over the last couple years, didn't we learn that the folding chair was invented by Black people because of what happened in Alabama?
The Montgomery Brawl.
This Black History Month, the podcast Selective Ignorance with Mandy B unpacks Black history and culture with comedy, clarity, and conversations that shake the status quo. The Crown Act in New York was signed in July of 2019, and that is a bill that was passed to prohibit discrimination based on hairstyles associated with race. To hear this and more. Listen to Selective Ignorance with Mandy B from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
1969. Malcolm and Martin are gone. America is in crisis. And at Morehouse College, the students make their move.
These students, including a young Samuel L. Jackson, locked up the members of the Board of Trustees, including Martin Luther King Sr. It's the true story of protest and rebellion in Black American history that you'll never forget. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather. In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from the commune.
It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to everybody.
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'm going back to my hometown to uncover the truth. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.